What a relief to be safe, so secure again. Amos lays down in the sun, and being warned to a frazzle, he was soon asleep. Then all of a sudden, he was in the water again, wide awake, spluttering and splashing about. Boris had forgotten for a moment that he was a passenger in his back and had sounded. When he realized his mistake, he surfaced so quickly that Amos was sent somersaulting tail over whiskers high into the air. Hitting the water hurt. Crazy with rage, Amos screamed and punched at Boris until he remembered he owed his life to the whale and quietly climbed back on his back. From then on, whenever Boris wanted to sound, he warned Amos in advance and got his okay. And whenever he sounded, Amos took a swim. Swimming along, sometimes at great speed, sometimes slowly and leisurely, sometimes resting and exchanging ideas, sometimes stopping to sleep, it took them a week to reach Amos' home shore. During that time, they developed a deep admiration for one another. Boris admired the delicacy, the quivering, the daintiness, the light touch, the small voice, the germ-like radiance of a mouse. Amos admired the bulk, the grandeur, the power, the purpose, the rich voice, and the abounding friendlessness of a whale. They became the closest friends possible. They told each other about their lives, their ambitions. They shared their deepest secrets with each other. The whale was very curious about life on land and sorry that he would never experience. Amos was fascinated by the whale's accounts of what went on under the sea. Amos sometimes enjoyed running up and down the whale's back for exercises. When he was hungry, he ate plankton. The only thing he missed was fresh, unsalty water. All right, guys, we're going to stop there. I'm going to give you some time, and you're going to write the who, the what, and why. All right, guys, now that we have done that, we're going to continue to pages 18 through 19. Think about the who, the what, and the why. This time came to say goodbye. There, they were at the shore. I wish we could be friends forever, said Boris. We will be friends forever, but we can't be together. You must live on land, and I must live on sea. I never forget you, though, and you can be sure I'll never forget you, said Amos. I will always be grateful to you for saving my life, and I want you to remember that if you ever need my help, I'd be more than glad to give it. How he could ever possibly help Boris, Amos didn't know, but he knew he was willing. The whale couldn't take Amos all the way to land. They said their goodbye, and Amos dived off Boris's back and swam to the land. From the top of the cliff, he watched Boris spout twice and disappeared. Boris laughed to himself. How could that little mouse ever help me? Little as he is, he's all heart. I love him, and I'll miss him terribly. Boris went to the conference off the Ivory Coast, and they went back to a life of whaling about, while Amos returned to his life of mousing around, and they were both happy. We're going to stop here, and we're going to do our gist of who did what and why. All right, guys, we're back. Many years after the incidents just described, when Amos was no longer a very young mouse and when Boris was no longer a very young whale, there occurred one of the worst storms of the century, Hurricane Yetta, and it just so happened that Boris, the whale, was flung ashore by the tidal wave and stranded on a very shore where Amos happened to make his home. So we're going to stop here. Who did what and why? All right, next. It is also just so happened that when the storm had cleared up and Boris was lying high and dry on the sand, losing his moisture in the hot sun and needing desperately to be back in the water, Amos came down to the beach to see how much damage Hurricane Yetta had done. Of course, Boris and Amos recognized each other at once. I don't have to tell you how these old friends felt at meeting again in a desperate situation. Amos rushed towards Boris. Boris could only look at Amos. So they see each other and he's so desperate. Amos, help me, said the mountain of a whale of the moat of a mouse. I think I'll die if I don't get back in the water soon. Amos gazed at Boris in agony of pity. He realized he had to do something very fast and had to think fast about what he had to do. Suddenly, he was gone. I'm afraid he won't be able to help me, said Boris to himself. Much as he wants to do something, what can such a little fellow do? Just as Amos felt all alone in the middle of the ocean, Boris felt now, lying alone in the shore. He was sure he would die. Just as he was preparing to die, Amos came racing back with two of the biggest elephants he could find. We're going to stop there. We're going to write our who, our what, and why. All right, guys, let's see how this awesome story ends. Without wasting time, these two good-hearted elephants got to pushing with all their might at Boris's huge body until he began turning over, bearded with sand and rolling down towards the sea. Amos, standing on the head of one of the elephants, yelled instructions, but no one heard him because he's too small. In a few minutes, Boris was already in the water, with waves washing at him, and he was feeling the wondrous wetness. You have to be out of the sea really to know how good it is to be in it, he thought. That's it. If you're well. Soon he was able to wiggle and wiggle into deeper water. He looked back at Amos, and on the elephant's stairs, tears were rolling down the great whale's cheeks. A tiny mouse had tears in his too. Goodbye, dear friend, squealed Amos. Goodbye, dear friend, mumbled Boris, as he disappeared in the waves. They knew they might never meet again. They knew they might never forget. They knew they would never forget each other. All right, guys, go ahead and write your gist for the ending of this story.